This is Shirley Swope with Tangents from Tasmania.blogspot.com, and today I'd like to do a couple of tutorials. I'm going to break them into two, and talking about creating basic shapes and adding them to your own personal library. And the reason for that is simply so that you're not out there reinventing the wheel over and over and over again, because if you're like me, you use the same card size, you use triangles, you use chevrons, and I want to show you how you can create those and save them to your library, again, so that you don't have to recreate them each time. So in the first tutorial, I'm going to show you creating a card base. Now, I make my cards for Operation Right Home, and they prefer that your cards be finished a 5.5 by 4 1/4. And because I do, even if you didn't use digital papers, you would still need these sizes to cut your purchase paper. So the first thing I want to do is, when I create a card, it has the base card, and then I will have a solid layer, and then I will have a pattern layer or a textured layer on top of it. So I am going to create those, and I'm going to save them to my library so that every time I open up and go to create a card, those three shapes will be created automatically. So I need a rectangle to start with, and since I'm not going to be doing this over and over again, it doesn't matter what size rectangle I need, because I can tell it what size I want. If I am doing a 4 1/4 by 5.5 card, then the base of it, and I'm going to use the scale, needs to be 5.5 inches wide this way, and it needs to be 8.5 inches long. Now, if you do 6 by 6s, then you'll probably just cut 12 by 12 paper in half. But I do print and cut, so with digital paper, so that's not necessarily true with me. So I'm going to make this 8.5, and then I'm going to hit apply. Now that's my first layer. That's my base card. The next thing I want to do is I want to have my solid layer with my pattern paper that would be within the bottom half of this one. So again, I need a rectangle. Now, when I put this rectangle in here, I really want it to fit in there, and I can jimmy around with it and show you what I'm talking about. But what I really want is I want it to fit in there so that there is an 1/8 of an inch gap here, an 1/8 of an inch gap here, and then from the fold line up here. So 1/8 of an inch plus 1/8 of an inch is 1/4 of an inch. So I need this rectangle to be 1/4 of an inch less in width, and then the height, half of 8.5 is 4 1/4, needs to be an 1/8 plus an 1/8 or 1/4 less, which would be 4 inches. So I'm going to select this rectangle, and I want it to be 5.25 wide, which is 1/4 of an inch less than the 5.5, and I want it to be 4 inches tall, which is 1/4 of an inch less than the 4 1/4. So that's going to be my solid layers. Now I want a pattern layer on top of this, and keep in mind that if you've got all of these created and when you go to create a card you don't want one, all you have to do is delete that layer. It's that simple. So the easiest way to create this next layer is, rather than draw a rectangle and do all this subtraction, I'm going to select that layer. I'm going to my offset tool, and I'm going to do an internal offset, and I want it 1/8 of an inch in all the way around, which is 0.125. See, learning those decimal fractions equivalents in 7th grade does pay off. Whoops. Internal offset. Whoops. 0.125 and apply. So now I have my layers, and if I put some color in there so y'all can see, and I'm going to go from inside out or outside in. I'm going to put pattern paper in here. And let's put this black polka dot. Then I'm going to select the next layer. I'm going to make it black. And then I'm going to select my card, and I'm going to make it this. And then I'm going to zoom out so y'all can see what I've done. And so these are the layers that I've created. When I go to design the rest of the card, depending on whether I'm going to use it looking at it this way, I can turn it around 90 degrees. I can rotate it 90 to go up and down. So now that I have those basic shapes, those are the shapes I use pretty much every time I make a card. What I want to do is I want to save this to my library. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to fill color nothing. Now you'll notice that at this point in time, each shape is a separate entity. I can move it, Control Z pulls it right back in. Each one of them can be moved separately. If you look down in the left corner, it says nothing is grouped. When I save it to my library, what it's going to do is it's going to take these three shapes and it's going to put them in a folder together. If you can think of it, if you can think of it in layers, to me it's a better comparison. It's to say they take all three of them and they create a folder and put those three shapes in that folder so they stay together. So when you go to move one, you're moving the folder. So to save it, you're going to go File, Save to Library. You're going to name it, and I'm going to name it 5.5 by 4.25 base card. You can add your name down here and tell it OK. And when you do that, if you go over here to your library, you will see, and I can't zoom in on this, it won't let me zoom here, but you will see I've got that card right there. Now, you might have a basic shapes folder, which I do have right here, but because this is a card for me, I'm going to pull this into my base card, into my cards folder. So that the next time I get ready to create a card, I open up my Silhouette program, I have a clean screen, I go to my library, I click on cards, and I go and I just double click, and there is my card. When I do that, you will notice that if I selected everything moves. I can't just single out anything. And the reason is, when I saved it to my library, it went down and grouped it or put it in a folder. So if I want to handle these individually, I have to ungroup them or take them out of the folder. So that's my first basic shape I want to do a tutorial for. My next tutorial is going to show you creating some more basic shapes. And for instance, I've got a basic shapes folder here that I have got different things that I use over and over, like tags and stars and chevrons and things like that. So that will be my next tutorial. Thank you.